So if you look at this portrait, we're going to talk a little bit today on how to make some changes where we can really kind of radically change. I did this as sort of a student challenge from one of my later class periods yesterday, but I really wanted to actually highlight it because it does show you a lot of different tools that can be used and different things that you guys picked out that have changed from the pre to the post version. So we're going to go back and we're going to start off with what I call kind of like your airbrushing. It is not an airbrush. Don't look for an airbrush tool. You will not find it. So instead, I'm going to introduce a brand new tool. To do that, though, I need to copy my background layer. Most of the time when we've been working on this project, you've been creating new layers. But this is a case where I want to Control J, and I'm going to copy it so I actually have a copy of my most edited image ready to go. Okay? There's a new tool over here. If you click and hold on your brush, you're going to find this one. Some of you used it on accident in a previous lesson and were wondering why it wasn't working properly. It's called your mixer brush. I want you to think of it like it's a paintbrush that has a little bit of paint on it that you're using to blend the paint that's already on your canvas, for example, skin tone. So to start off, though, what I do is I grab my eyedropper, and that eyedropper is what, like 6 tools down, maybe, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tools down. Could be something else is noted, but again, we want the regular old eyedropper. I want you to choose the lightest part of the skin tone that you're working on. So what you're going to do is you're going to click one time. You're going to see that it's loaded in my color picker right here. Please make sure that that is the color that's on top. If it's not, if it loaded it in and put it in the background, just grab this little arrow, click on it, and put them right up on top, okay? That is super crucial because if I have another color, let me just pick a weird kind of a strange color that wouldn't normally be found foremost on the skin, what you're going to see is you're going to see some color starting to be added and blended in, which is what we don't want to see. Again, Control Z it. Was it just one click thing? You'll see I get rid of it really easily, all right? So let's go ahead and we're going to get our lightest skin tone in there. Color mixer, you're going to see you have some options up here. You can mirror mine if you like that same look. If you don't want it to mix as quickly, you could reduce the mix. If you want to slow it down, you could reduce the flow. This is how wet the brush is, quote unquote, and how much paint is on the brush. You kind of get a feeling for it. Again, if it's slightly different than what I have here, really no big deal. Don't fret over 5%. Not on this. So if I go to the mixer brush, I'm going to go to a soft brush. Again, notice I pull the hardness level down. Somewhere in this lower region is just fine. Doesn't have to be a perfect number. But I zoom in. Okay, so once I zoom in, you're going to find, as I get close, like into this facial hair in here, when I pull a value, I started on that bright and I pulled it over, and I might scrub just a little bit. So this is a click and just a gentle round scrub and end click. Click, I circle just a couple times, end click. You don't want to do a bunch of it at once because you are going to end up getting something kind of unhappy. Whatever color I pull from is what pulls out into here. So you can see some of those pink tones in there coming out. So it is really important that you're pulling from the color you want to use. So I'm pulling from over here. I'm pulling right over here. I might pull that into here. I'm going to pull some of that darker color down into here. Making sure that I'm just, again, this is, let's look and see how many clicks this has been so far. So since I undid that little stuff I did here, those are the clicks I did for this little area. So don't try to cover an area in one click. But you see it's just a series of clicks and little scrubs. If I get this brush a little bit smaller, I can be a little bit more effective right along the edge. You want to watch out for edge detail though. If you scrub along the line, like a hard edge somewhere, you're going to blur that so that it doesn't look like it's there anymore. It looks fuzzy. It looks more fake. So be very careful as you're working not to blur the lines, to just blur right up next to the lines, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. If not, I'll show you right now. If I go over there, you can see I get that line is gone. Okay, so you do want to keep that in mind. The bigger the brush, the more area you can cover. So I like to do some bigger areas first. Maybe I want to get rid of the appearance of those pores. I want it to be much more, you know, flawless, if you will. I might go in the eye. I will click once and pull it across. I didn't scrub in that, but I just gently blurred that. Maybe I go just a little bit more right here to soften that. And that's pretty much what I do to work on this. Now, for areas such as the brows, if I work into there, it's going to cause me a lot of work. It's doable. You can pull that bright color in and try to get rid and mask some of that off. But what I would actually recommend instead of that is to use your eyedropper, get that skin color that's right around that eye, and actually go to your regular brush. Start off with your regular brush. I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger. It'll look a little bit fake right now. It's okay. You're going to get it looking better in just a minute. Come on in, cover that over, and then we'll go back to our mixer brush. Okay, we're going to go back to that mixer brush. If I need to resample a color, go ahead and resample if that makes it a little bit better for you. And then go ahead and again, I might pull that shadow from his lid up a little bit. I might make it smaller if I realize, oh, you know what, I missed a hair right there. I'm just tiny little circles and like I'm scrubbing the tiniest little surface. And just kind of work through it like that, pulling those values where you need them and making it look more believable, okay? Like other times, it is really important that if you add something on, you make yourself a new layer. So right here, I'm going to go to my create a new layer. I can come in and I'm going to, again, pick a color using your eyedropper. That's actually really helpful to try to get something that will match without like going in here and saying, okay, well, is that like a grayish brown? Is that like a tone? I don't know. Pick something from there to help you. You might want to pick a deeper tone. I'm going to come into the brush. Don't forget to change it back to your brush. That's the other part that's really going to get you guys. Just that fluid movement from one to the other. Find that brow you want to use. Obviously, it's way too small. Too big. I still think that's a little bit too small. So it's somewhere between a 300 and a 400. Then I'm going to actually just come in here and dial it down a little bit. I might go right in the middle somewhere, find my positioning, and then click it one time. Now because that's on a layer by itself, again, click, click, change the name, browse. I don't want to see 10,000 untitled, you know, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4. If I say find your eye layer now, it's going to take you an hour. And it's very poor work habit not to rename your layers, okay? So again, it's on its own layer, so I can say, oh, you know what, I really don't like the way that eyebrow looks. I can either erase it or delete the layer and start again. So that's a little bit about what to expect with that sort of airbrush kind of a look. I would continue to work on that a little bit more, get a little bit more shadow into there, etc. Okay? Now, as we're moving on, I have the request to talk about how that chin line was lifted. You do have to use this tool with great caution, simply because the tool has a lot of power. This is called the Smudge Tool. It's about halfway down. You'll see a blur, a sharpen, or a smudge tool. I think this is the default. You might see that, but it's right under your paint bucket. Click and hold. Find your smudge tool. Smudge tool, same thing goes. I'm going to reduce the hardness because I don't want it to be a super hard line. I want it to be sort of blended and natural. My strength right now is at 50%. The higher that is, the more change that happens. So if I go ahead and I grab this, the size of your brush does also affect it. If it's too small and you push, you're going to end up pushing, make sure you're on a facial layer. If you're not sure, Control J it and work on that. So I might call this my smudged version. Okay? And then if I'm like, and I totally messed this thing up and it looks awful and I can't get it back, delete, copy again, I'm good to go. Alright? I'm going to go ahead and just undo all that. But you can see that this will make a big difference with a small brush. So you do want to work with brushes with careful size thoughts. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. You also want to just push a little bit. Push a little bit, lift it a little bit. These are little nips and tucks. Push it a little bit. You don't want to like push it and bully it in because the tool tends to lag. It takes a while. You saw how long it took that to happen? And it was a very unfavorable result. So we don't want to make that happen. You just want to take and you want to just gently push that up. Gently push that up. Gently push that up. Look at it. Decide, oh, that's one side that I missed. I want to make that chin a little bit narrower. You know, it works to the reverse too. Let me zoom in. If I want to make the lips a little bit bigger. Again, carefully, but I can take and I can smudge that out a little bit. Again, it's small movements or it's going to be just too much for making it look reasonable. You want to make it look reasonable. You know, that's still in the reasonable realm. It doesn't look like, whoa, what happened there? We didn't bloat it. You know, he didn't get collagen injections. This is like a really good plastic surgeon time. Okay, so be that really good one. So you can see they're still looking rather natural. Can you use it on the nose? Yes, you can use it on the nose, but again, I would use it very, very sparingly. Be gentle with it so that you know, if you're really hating on those, you know, you really want to move that, you can do a little bit here and there, okay? Eyes, I really wouldn't touch the actual, like, eyeball part, but you could lift the brow a little bit if you thought, like, you know, he's got a very heavy-lidded look. If you wanted to lift that brow a little bit and pull that up a little, you could do that to just open up those eyes. I would not touch the, again, the eyeball area at all with it. It's too unreasonable, okay? The last part that I will show you is really quick, and it's creating, again, a blank layer and thinking about putting color in the hair. I'm going to do it quickly. I'm going to ask you guys, if you choose to color the hair, please spend time on this. This is where you can lose reality very quickly. You're going to go into those brushes. You're going to find whatever that color is. And you can sort of color a little, you know, on the top of it. Please, please, please take more time than I'm doing. Along that hairline, I would bring that hardness level down so that it's a little bit blurry, a little bit softened along that hairline so that it blends out. And if it's still too rough, you can actually come back in. If you went too far with it, I'm going to use my eraser, reduce the hardness level, and sort of shave a little bit away here and there. But once that hair is totally cut, could be streaks in the hair, or my example where I just colored that shaved part, you can come in right now, go to your layer blend modes. Again, click on your first one, dissolve. Now that it's in blue, I can use my keyboard arrows and just watch and see what happens. And make decisions. You might say, you know what, I didn't intend on it being pink, but oh my gosh, I love the way that that looks. Okay, you might find something that works really well. You might find things that don't work very well at all. So let's say you love that one. You love the effect, but you want to change that color. Now I wish I picked a different color. You go back to what you know. We can go back to our hue and saturation. All you have to do is move this as you're watching the screen. And you can kind of select where you might want it to be. And again, this can be cleaned up with the eraser. You can go back in with that paintbrush and that color, adding that in. Notice, because I did the hue saturation and it was only half of the hair, this half is still that other color. So you want to think about that. Don't do hue saturation until you're all done. Because now if I go back there, you're going to find it's going to change them independently of each other. So he's got sort of a two-tone look. Okay? So again, those are some things I want you to be aware of as you're working. Work clean, work careful, rename your layers, double click, there we go, and you're good to go.